Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Dux, Director of National Affairs with Nebraska Farm Bureau, and someone who likes meat probably a little bit too much. Today we're going to talk a little bit about beef, and before I start talking about what I've got on my cutting board here, I want to thank our partners at Certified Piedmontese Beef. That's what this is. We've got a beautiful ribeye here and a New York strip and a tri-tip, and we'll talk about how we're going to cook these. But first and foremost, I want you to know that we've partnered up with Certified Piedmontese Beef, a wonderful member benefit of ours, and we just thank them so much for their partnership with us. And let's start talking about what we have here. Again, like I said, we've got three different cuts of steak here, and all of them are just a little bit different. We have a ribeye here, and I'm a massive ribeye fan. You take a look at a steak that's well marbled, and it has probably the best muscle on any cow. That's the spinalis muscle right here. That's any piece of prime rib you get, or ribeye steak that's super, super tender. That's what this is. That's what this muscle is right here on the outside. It's super tender. It's wonderful. That's a ribeye steak here. We also have a really nice New York strip steak, and this is the steak on a T-bone. That's the larger end, opposite of the filet. And this New York strip steak, it has marbling, as you can see. This particular one does. It's a little bit firmer than what your ribeye is. It has a little bit firmer texture. A lot of folks love, certainly love the New York strip, but that's what this one is. And then last but not least, we have a tri-tip, and this isn't one probably a lot of folks have. This steak actually got popular in California, and this piece of meat actually is one of my favorites because it's a muscle that actually it's a part of the sirloin, so toward the rear end of the cow. And this particular tri-tip, what we have here, actually the reason I like it so much is because normally this is a muscle that has a really good beefy flavor to it, but at the same time it's tender, and it's something you can actually cook to a medium rare. It has really nice, you can see it has really nice striations of fat in there, and again, as we've said, fat equals flavor. So certainly one of my favorite cuts, and something you want to cook a little slower, but again, you only want to hit it to that medium rare temperature. So let's start seasoning these things up. So what we're going to do is look at these things, and we're going to try. I'm going to lay my tri-tip over here. We'll season that one last. And let's just go with the basic ribeye. Again, we've got this beautiful spinalis muscle on the outside. We want to add a little bit of olive oil to that steak just to make sure our seasoning adheres to it. And I'm going to be cooking these steaks to a medium rare temperature. That's as far as I like to go, even so much as I'd rather keep it rare sometimes. But we're just going to add a little bit of olive oil just to get that seasoning to adhere to the steak, and it also helps the steak not stick to your grates. A lot of times, I've heard from folks that how do I prevent the meat from sticking on my grill grates, and some people will apply oil directly to the grates. That's not actually what you're supposed to do. All that oil is going to do is burn. It's better to actually apply the oil to the meat itself, and that prevents it from burning, and it also does that secondary feature of having and allowing that salt and pepper rub or whatever you're going to put on there, that rub itself, it allows it to stick to your meat a little bit better. On a tri-tip, sometimes they'll come with a fat cap on there. I always trim that off of there because you always have some silver skin, some of that connective tissue that is difficult really to cook. It doesn't really cook out, and I should have done this before I applied my olive oil to it, but there's a little bit of silver skin still left on this, and so take a good sharp knife and you want to get rid of that. And more often than not, when you cook any piece of beef, I don't care if you're talking about a brisket or pork, I mean really any type of thing, you want to make it to where it's pretty much ready to eat. So you have some of this excess fat here. Some people like to eat that, some people don't. I try to take as much fat off as I can. I'll leave this one on, but you want to try to get it as close to what you want to eat as possible. And it saves you in the long run. It prevents folks from having to trim too much, and I think in the long run your guests are going to be more happy. So when it comes to meat, one of the big misnomers is that you're supposed to marinate it. Or you're supposed to do things, you're supposed to put all sorts of seasonings on the outside. I try to keep it as simple as possible. Actually, if you dig into the scientific research, the only molecule that is small enough to penetrate meat, honestly, is salt. And so sometimes what I'll like to do if I'm going to make steaks that evening, make steaks for dinner, I'd like to go ahead and I'll salt these ahead of time and put them in the fridge. And so that actually allows some salt to leak into the meat just a little bit, allows it to melt in. Today we're not going to do that. I'm going to actually season these pretty plainly as I've done with a lot of other stuff here. I like basically my own rub here, which is just salt, pepper, kosher salt, some coarse ground pepper, some garlic powder, and some onion powder. It really, if you look at a lot of steak places, that's kind of the basic steak rub that a lot of folks have, and it's pretty coarse. I also like, you have a lot of some seasonings that have some caraway seed and some of those in there. That's a really good seasoning too that you can have. But I'll actually season these 3 different ways. So the ribeye I will do with my salt, pepper. You're going to see I put plenty on there, which is not a problem. You want to make sure, you want to taste your beef, so don't go crazy. But we want to make sure that we get plenty of salt and pepper on there, because that salt will help wake up and enhance the flavor of your meat. You don't want to try to replace the flavor of that steak. You just want to enhance it. And make sure you don't forget those edges. Here we have our New York strip, and I'm going to add this Montreal style steak seasoning. And again, we're just trying to get a nice little coat. This has some salt, some pepper, some caraway seed in it. It's a pretty coarse seasoning. Make sure we get those edges. That's always a good thing to get. I added just a little bit more there. We'll get that around to the other side. You can certainly, if you get a little extra, you can rub that off. But like we did before, we just want to press it in, not get too much on there. And I think that one is pretty much good to go. So we've got a nicely done New York strip right there. Okay, now we'll go over to our tri-tip. And one of the things I like to use, and I'm using this seasoning that has some activated charcoal in it. It's just dark. It's black. The thing that I like about this seasoning is that dark color looks really nice when you have a medium rare, nice red color as you cut into it. So it's a really nice thing just from an appearance standpoint. If you get into that, it's a really fun seasoning to get that has that really nice black color. So I think we've got that done. Let's get these out to the grill. All right, so we're going to take these steaks and put them on the grill. Again, we've got some of our lamb actually that's out here yet, and our chicken that's still being cooked, if you see that in there from our other videos. But all we're going to do with this tri-tip, I want to keep it on the cooler part of the grill here. So I'm going to lay this tri-tip on the coolest part right back here. A little bit of sizzle's okay, but we want to cook this pretty low and pretty slow for the most part. Because it's a thicker piece, we don't want to have the outside of the meat all well done and the inside rare. We want as consistent of a temperature as we can get. That's true with all steaks. On pellet cookers, it's the same type of thing. You can get, you want to try to get those and keep those steaks at a lower temperature at first. Don't sear them right away. Let them cook at a lower temperature at first, and then we'll sear them at the very end to get that last bit of crust and color. All right, so we're out here to our gas grill, just taking a quick look at our steaks here. Again, you're going to notice they've been on here for a little bit. Our temperature's slowly climbing. So we only have, 95, 75. That's still 50-some degrees, still pretty cool. And this steak, we're just at 100, 113. That almost, if we get to the very end, we got to stick it there. So we're still just over 100 degrees. I think I'm going to flip these. So we got to be careful that I'm not going too deep, because that's when you notice the temperature. So we're just over 100 degrees here. I'm going to flip these. It's all about the type of heat you use. Again, we're using a reverse sear method. So we're doing more so, you can see we've got some color on that side. But we're trying to, as best as we can, do a lower heat for now. And then we will do the hot heat when we actually want to sear and put a crust on at the very end. What this will do was hopefully help us get a pretty consistent color throughout, and not a steak that is, done on the as you cut into it on the top, and then done on the bottom, and then rare in the middle. Hopefully what we're going to try to do is get as rare of a steak as we possibly can, and as a medium rare as we can, and have a consistent color throughout. So we'll check on these in just a couple more minutes. Okay, so we've hit the medium rare point on both of our steaks here. We're just a little bit underneath that, which is great. So we're 121, 120 basically. The ribeye is just a little bit further along than that, which is great. So what we're going to do with both of these is actually take it to the hottest part of the grill, and we're just going to put it on there really quick, maybe a minute on each side. Just try to get a little bit of a crust as we can. Our tri-tip I moved over just a little bit warmer. We still have a long way to go on that piece of meat. We got a little bit warmer. But we just need to let that one go for just a little bit more. We're still, right at 100 degrees or so, just under 100 degrees. and so we want that one to go just a little bit longer. But our steaks will go and we'll sear those here really, really fast. So I'm just being lazy here and using my thermometer probe. Normally you can take something else and some tongs or something like that when you do this. I'm just going to take my thermometer probe because I have it right here. And you can hear that sizzle right away. We're just going to leave it there for just a little bit to help create a little bit more crust on there. But they really do look pretty good. You notice that they don't have a lot of grill marks on there. Again, they'll have a little bit more once we get there. Once we keep them on here a little bit longer. But we should have these things, they should be done here momentarily, and we'll flip them. All right, so I pulled our 2 steaks off. I think we hit plenty of temperature and they just add a little bit of crust to them. As you can see, they have a pretty consistent color, and that's kind of what we shoot for. You don't necessarily want grill marks. You'd rather have a brown steak throughout. That's a flavor piece. It looks nice, and if you get into steak grilling competitions, which do exist out there, they are all about having steak marks that look right. But I'm more so in for flavor. So again, we appreciate these are 2 certified Piedmontese steaks. We've got our ribeye here, we've got our New York strip, and we just put them on our grill. We added our olive oil to them. We added our seasoning to them, just a basic salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and then a little bit of a Montreal steak mix here, and so we added that one to the ribeye. But our goal is to, again, we reverse seared them. So we started low, and we kind of cooked them almost to temperature about 110, 120 degrees, and then put them on the grill and hopefully kind of finished them out there. So let's check and see how well we did, and we'll take a try here. So I'm going to cut right into the middle of this New York strip. So we did okay. We got a little bit done on the outsides, but really a pretty consistent color there. A little bit more cooked than what I normally prefer, but that's me. I prefer my steaks pretty rare. So if we cut in over here, so you kind of see it's a little bit more rare as we get into this top piece here. But so there we go. We've got a nice piece of New York strip. It had some pretty good marbling in it, and again, let's see what we got here. Really nice flavor, cooked really well, has very nice moisture. So that's the New York strip. Let's get into this ribeye. I'm a ribeye guy, and that's more so my steak of choice. I'm going to cut right in the middle. A little bit more done than I'd like to get, so you got to keep watching. And I cooked this one a little bit further than what I'd like to do it. We'll try to cut this spinalis off and see how well we did there. This is the best part of the entire cow, in my opinion. That's a little bit more rare, which if we had to save one piece and cook over and overdo another one, I'd much rather have that spinalis muscle cut and cook just a little bit better. So we've got a really nice tender piece of this muscle, and certainly this is the part that is, like I said, the best part of the cow, in my opinion, and really a pretty tasty piece. Super tender. Seasoned really well. The salt's very nice. Certainly steak that you could share with your entire family. There's really nice salt to it. And really, everyone knows how to make a steak. The reverse sear method is, in my opinion, the best way to do it. To get more of a consistent color, just make sure you're watching your temperatures pretty close. The gas grill I used today was one I have not really grilled a steak on before. It's a pretty big one, but any grill at home, you kind of can do it. You want to set up a 2-zone cooking system, a cooler half, a warmer half, so you can hit temperature as best you can. So this is where we're at on our 2 steaks, and really, again, thanks to our partners at Certified Piedmontese Beef. These are excellent. So our tri-tip came to temperature. Again, this piece of tri-tip, it's important to kind of pay attention as we cut it. This is a piece that's similar to a sirloin. It's one of my favorite cuts because it's a muscle that's used a little bit, so a lot of really good beefy flavor, but at the same time you can cook it to a medium rare temperature. The seasoning that I put on it, it's that black seasoning that has that activated charcoal in it, so you get a really good kind of black and red color combination. And so let's cut into it and see how well we did here. And so again, we have to pay attention to see these muscles, the way these muscle fibers are running are going this way. So you want to make sure that you always cut across those so you get a much more tender bite. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, as you can see, so we have a really nice colored piece of tri-tip, almost universal color from top to bottom, a really nice medium rare. You can see that it's really nice and tender, a lot of juice in that piece. And if you've never tried a tri-tip before, I'd highly encourage you. It's probably my favorite steak to have. If you want to call it a steak, they call it a tri-tip roast, whatever. But really, honestly, the most flavorful and one of the best pieces of meat, one of the best pieces of beef that you can get. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all about cooking and serving up steaks and beef today with Certified Piedmontese Beef. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, everyone.